Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt.
Ultimately, what we're here to do is win.
From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today, the Padres take on the Miami Marlins in the second game of a three-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Marlins, right-hander Edward Cabrera, and for the Padres, right-hander Stephen Kolek. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you from inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 3:40 as we get ready for the middle game of this three-game set. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, we have a lot to do. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll check in with Padres radio voice Jesse Agler in just a little bit. Our keys to the game, full breakdown of today's starting pitching matchup, and much, much more. But first, it's time to set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa Vista and Oceanside, and at FraserFarmsMarket.com. Padres enter today 55-45. They enter the day sitting in the National League's final wild card spot and have a cushion, a 3.5 game lead on the Giants, Cardinals, and Reds. Padres also entering the day still just 3.5 games back of the Dodgers in the NL West. Meanwhile, the Marlins are 46-53. However, they continue to play well. The Marlins are 16-8 in their last 24 games. While the Padres continued this 10-game road trip and started this 3-game series against the Marlins last night, let's rewind.
Did you miss what happened in the last Padres game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind on the Padres Radio Network.
Our starting pitching matchup yesterday, Yuri Perez against Randy Vasquez. The Padres got it going against Perez in the top of the second. Xander Bogaerts hit a leadoff double. He went to third on a wild pitch. Jackson Merrill at the plate.
And Merrill hits it on a line out to right field. That is down at a base hit. Bogaerts will come in to score. Jackson Merrill an RBI single as the Padres take a 1-0 lead here in the second.
With 2 outs and Merrill still on first base, it was Martin Maldonado.
2-1, hit hard on a line. That's a fair ball up the third baseline, headed towards the left field corner. Merrill's on his horse. He's at third. Stowers gets to it. Leeper going to hold him. Going to run through the stop sign. Relay to the plate, not in time, and it gets away. Merrill ran right through the stop sign and comes in to score. Martin Maldonado, an RBI double, and a 2-0 Padre lead in the second.
It stayed 2-0 for a bit. Randy Vasquez was getting in and out of trouble. He dealt with 2 base runners in the second and third innings, but he got out of it. Randy's luck not as pristine in the bottom half of the fourth. It was Kyle Stowers who led off.
And Stowers in the air to deep left center field. Jackson Merrill's racing back onto the warning track. In front of the big wall there. He can't get it, and it's gone, a home run. Oh boy, Kyle Stowers, 22nd of the year. One of the absolute hottest hitters on the planet. And he gets the fish on the board. It's 2-1.
That's all Vasquez allowed in the fourth inning. Yuri Perez went 5 innings, allowed just the 2 early runs. Vasquez allowed a 1-out single in the bottom of the 5th inning. Mike Shildt got very aggressive with his bullpen. Vasquez at just 68 pitches, but Shildt went to Adrian Morejon with the left-handed batter coming up. Morejon got the next 2 outs. He then proceeded to retire the side in order in the bottom of the 6th inning. From that point, it was just the following of the formula. Estrada pitched a scoreless 7th inning. Adam a scoreless 8th inning. It was Robert Suarez in the 9th.
First pitch coming, not running, and a ground ball sharply to Xander. He's got it. Little overhand flip to Iglesias in time for the force, and the ball game is over. Robert Suarez does it again in a 1-run game as the Pods take game 1 of this series by a final score of 2-1.
Padres scoring 2 runs in the top of the second, and between Randy Vasquez and the Big Four, the fearsome foursome, the 4 horsemen, whatever moniker you want to give those 4 guys out of the bullpen, they were all terrific. Morejon, Estrada, Adam, and Suarez getting it done as the Padres won the series opener in Miami 2-1. Let's go down to the 305.
Let's take a trip up to the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup with Jesse Agler in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Jesse, before we focus on today's game, I want to touch on last night because what these four guys in the bullpen continue to do, it is so incredibly impressive. And it just feels, even though they've been used a lot, like as we get deeper into the season, these games get more intense. Then you start thinking about a playoff scenario. It remains a really unique advantage for this team, the fact that they have four high leverage guys in that bullpen that simply have been outstanding all year.
It's a big part of how you have success in the postseason. There's no doubt. I mean, you think about what went wrong for the Padres in the playoffs last year, and a lot of it was kind of running into all those relievers for the Dodgers that were white hot. And so, yeah, I mean, you kind of reverse engineer that a little bit, right? And you think about what the Padres might be able to do to teams in similar situations. There's no doubt. Look, in today's day and age, if you're going to win a World Series, you're going to need to have unbelievable work out of your bullpen because come October, you think we're leaning on these guys hard now. Just wait until the playoffs and just go back and watch the World Series and even the two championship series and how the Yankees and the Dodgers, the two pennant winners, kind of utilized their bullpens. I mean, it was a lot on those guys. The sheer number of innings they worked was really remarkable. So this is really just the appetizer, what we're seeing now. If the Padres get to where they're trying to go, it's going to get turned up even another notch or two, and it's obviously been great to see them have all the success they've had.
Padres making a couple of moves before today's game. Today's starting pitcher, Stephen Kolek, he was recalled from AAA. Kyle Hart, also available out of the bullpen. He was recalled from AAA as well. Kolek making the start today, Jesse, and the Padres had him go down back to AAA for a little bit, give him a little bit of a reset. The innings number is a lot higher already than it was a year ago, obviously, when he was in the bullpen last year, but he has been pretty good overall in these starts so far. Jesse, what's your sense of how the Padres will continue to manage Stephen Kolek as that innings number gets up there?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We've talked about this so much the last couple of years. It was Michael King last year, Seth Lugo a couple of years ago, guys that weren't stretched all the way out to be starters. And now all of a sudden you're asking a lot more innings of them. And they've just done an expert job of managing it for all those guys. Kolek's situation a little bit different, though, of course, because he's not really been, quote, in the rotation all year long.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a different calculus, but that perhaps makes it a little bit easier to manage. And I think we just saw that with the sort of reset that he had in AAA, kind of a 3-inning cameo, the one start with El Paso, and then an extended all-star break. They're obviously able to really kind of prescribe exactly what they want workload-wise for him in between starts. And so, yeah, it's all part of that. And it's also, a guy who's at a different point in his career than Lugo was and as King was, someone who doesn't have as thick of a major league resume. So he's learning a lot of the things that a young big leaguer has to learn while also, putting the workload back to a place it hasn't been to in the last really 3 years. So it's kind of interesting to watch as always. But he's a guy who really does seem to have great confidence in himself when he's out there, doesn't allow the moment to get too big. And, I would, and this isn't inside info. This is just kind of me looking at the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would read into the fact that Kyle Hart came with him today because Kyle Hart is a guy that can certainly give you multiple innings out of the bullpen. And so perhaps the Padres try and do a little something together here tonight.
And fans might remember the last time we saw Kyle Hart in the major leagues, he was outstanding. 3 2/3 scoreless innings in a win in relief. And I'm with you. I also read into it a little bit, the fact that Kyle Hart was part of the move today. We'll see if Hart plays a role in today's game. Finally, Jesse, I talked about this with Tony yesterday. This Marlins team, they're in an interesting spot. They do have some young talent. All of a sudden, they've got Kyle Stowers, who looks like one of the best players in the world right now. What's your take on what the Marlins are right now? It's been such a fascinating franchise over the years.
Oh, boy, you do some books on these guys. I don't know that anyone would actually buy the book, but it'd be interesting stuff. They are absolutely fascinating. And we've seen this from them before, and under different baseball leaderships, under different ownerships, where, you kind of want to leave them for dead and just dismiss them. This was literally a 100-loss team last year.
Yeah.
They certainly didn't appear to get better in the offseason. And so I think the expectation around the league, right, was that it's going to be another year of, basement dwelling for the Miami Marlins. And look, the Braves obviously are much worse than I think we all anticipated they would be. The Nationals are kind of figuring some things out. But for the Marlins to be in third place right now, in the first week after the All-Star break is a heck of an accomplishment. And it does not appear to be a smoke and mirrors thing. There is some very, very real talent on this team. You mentioned Stowers, as you said, he's playing out of his mind right now. He's popping up on these lists all of a sudden with guys like Ohtani and Eugenio Suarez, just to give you an idea of how good he's been. But, they've got something in Xavier Edwards, who, of course, was drafted by the Padres. He's hitting the way I'm sure the Padres thought he would when they used a high draft pick on him. Otto Lopez really strong up the middle defensively, hitting, well beyond, I would imagine, what some of the expectations were. They've got some young pieces to like. Edward Cabrera, who's starting tonight, Yuri Perez, who started yesterday, are a couple of guys that I think have really high ceilings as starters. Wait and see what kind of happens with Sandy Alcantara. But tell you what, man, they are a team to be aware of. Now, what kind of resources are they going to put into this going forward? Are they going to take full advantage of maybe developing something of a young core here? Or is what's happened so many times in the history of this franchise going to happen again, and it's going to kind of fall apart before it gets put together? I don't know. We'll see. But that's all part of what lies ahead for the Marlins. But there's no doubt, give a lot of credit, primarily, to be frank, to the folks who were running it before the group that's currently running it, for getting some of these guys on the roster, because there is something formidable about the Marlins. There's no doubt.
Yeah, we saw yesterday their bullpen was really good, even though they lost the game, and that's been a big reason why they've been very good as of late. Jesse, as always, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Tony coming up at 3:30 here in California. Thanks so much.
You got it, Sam.
All right, Jesse Agler joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for today's game. First pitch is coming up at 3:40. Lot to do. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt coming up in just a little bit. Quick look at the Padres lineup today. It looks like this. Fernando Tatis Jr. in right field leading off. Luis Arraez, the DH, batting second. Manny Machado at third base batting third. Gavin Sheets at left field today batting cleanup. Xander Bogaerts in the 5 spot playing shortstop. Jackson Merrill in center batting 6. Jake Cronenworth at first base batting 7th. Jose Iglesias has been really impactful as of late on both sides, defensively and at the plate. He's playing second base and batting 8th. And Martin Maldonado doing the catching and batting 9th, with right-hander Stephen Kolek on the mound. As Jesse alluded to, today's starting pitcher Edward Cabrera on the mound for Miami. He's been very, very good this season. This is an interesting little series. Padres facing some good starting pitching. They faced a good young right-hander in Yuri Perez yesterday, another one in Cabrera today, and tomorrow they get to face Sandy Alcantara on the mound for Miami. So this should be an interesting couple of days. Again, this Marlins team comes in 46-53. However, as I said earlier, they've played well as of late. Even after losing yesterday's game, the Marlins are 16-8 in their last 24 games. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, plus our keys to the game, our full breakdown of today's starting pitching matchup, headlines from around the major leagues. If you want to get involved, as always, you can do that by finding me on X at Sammy Lev, SammyLev. Instagram DM's open as well, Sammy Lev there too. You can also chime in on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube stream. You can also find me on TikTok. I got to get back to the TikTokers out there. It's Sammy Levitt, SammyLevitt. Let me know who you are, where you're tuned in from. I may give you a shout out here on the air. And if you want to give me a key to today's game, I may just read it on the air here as well. First pitch coming up at 3:40 right here on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for Game 2 of this 3-game series between the Padres and the Miami Marlins. Right-hander Stephen Kolek makes his return to the Padres rotation today against right-hander Edward Cabrera on the mound for Miami. We send things out to Jesse and Tony at 3:30. Still a lot to do between now and then. We'll have a look at some headlines from around the major leagues. We've got some teams in baseball that are playing really, really well right now. We'll tell you about those teams coming up in a little bit. We'll also have our keys to the game. We'll take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. We'll preview today's starting pitching matchup and much, much more. And we'll also tell you about a couple of hot hitters in the Padres lineup in just a moment as well. But before we get to all that, let's go back to Lone Depot Park in Miami and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Served up by Sin Lee Food, where fresh meets flavor. Find farm fresh produce, bold Asian spices, and gourmet ingredients at 4665 El Cajon Boulevard. Sin Lee Food, the cook's Asian resource.
Hey, Mike, Stephen Kolek going for you today. He was throwing the ball really well before he was sent out, make room for the reliever, obviously. But how much are you looking forward to seeing Stephen back out there?
Yes, he's been good. He's been good all year. Send him out over a roster competition decision, create more bullpen, also give him a little bit of a blow towards the middle of the second half of the year. And but he's back and ready to go tonight.
Yeah, what's impressed you most about his transition from being a reliever last year to starting rotations?
He's really been able to throw multiple pitches in the zone for quality strikes, and he's got the good sinker. That's a lot of his calling card, but he's been really good with all the secondary pitches. The cutter's been good, the changeup's been good, the sweeper's been good, so he's been able to have the arsenal that starters need.
He seems so calm, cool, and collected too with runners on base. Is that just innate, you think, or some of that because of his reliever background coming with guys on base, or what do you think that happened?
I think it's probably a combination. I think he's predisposed to that. I think it's something you learn to do at this level. I think coming out of the bullpen helped with that, being able to know he's coming in with traffic, and also just an acclimation to getting comfortable in the big leagues and trusting your stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of stuff, pretty good stuff out of the guy that you were facing last night, some good stuff out of the guy tonight. A really great approach by your hitters yesterday. It seemed like they really had a sense of how to attack somebody with an explosive fastball like that. Can that approach carry over into tonight possibly?
Yeah, I would think our approach can carry into every night. I think it's something, I know it's something we've addressed, and, it's not that it wasn't intentional earlier, but, really, being able to take that good quality at bat, knowing what we're going to see, and, we took really good at bats against a tough guy last night, and, we'll do the same tonight.
Just Kyle Hart's role.
Kyle will be in the bullpen. Combination of things, but primarily the fact that, we're seeing a group today that, has got a few more lefties in it. Lefties fare a little better. Kyle went back down, pitched out of the bullpen, has been good against lefties, and just an opportunity for him to have a guy that's a little more stretched out that is able to get lefties as well.
Short burst bullpen possible, or is it like pretty easy?
It could be either one. It could be both. We're not married into he's like the long man. It'll be situational dictated. But yeah, could be a little bit of everything.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt earlier today inside the Padres dugout. We'll hear more from Mike on our post-game coverage coming up later on this evening. Sam Levitt back with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up in Miami at 3:40. You heard there at the end a question about Kyle Hart. And again, in case you missed it, we talked about it with Jesse in our opening segment on the pregame. Padres recalling left-hander Kyle Hart alongside today's starting pitcher Stephen Kolek. And you might look at that and scratch your head a little bit because the Padres optioned Alec Jacob back to AAA, which you probably expected with Kolek coming up today. And then they sent Brian Hoeing to AAA El Paso as well. And Hoeing has been pretty good and obviously, I think, a valuable reliever in the Padres pen. So would it surprise anybody? And again, no inside info here on my part, but I'm just speculating here. I don't know that I'd be super surprised if we see Kyle Hart today, especially considering Stephen Kolek, the innings number creeping up. Padres are clearly trying to keep him healthy and as fresh as possible for the stretch run here. And remember, Kyle Hart pitched before the All-Star break back on July 6th. This was against the Rangers. You might remember this game. David Morgan started it. Padres used an opener, then went to essentially a bullpen game. And Kyle Hart that day was excellent in that outing. He went 3 2/3 scoreless innings through 43 pitches, 32 strikes. So the last time we saw Kyle Hart, he was really good in sort of a piggyback kind of role, or at least a bulk innings kind of role. Better way to put it, bulk innings kind of role. Keep an eye on if the Padres elect to use Kyle Hart at some point in this game to pick up some innings. We'll see how they do it, but Kyle Hart, again, was activated alongside Stephen Kolek earlier today. Let's quickly pause for station identification on the Padres radio network.
KWFN-FM and KWFN HD1 San Diego.
Hey, this is Mike Shildt. You're listening to Padres Baseball on Padres Radio Network.
An Odyssey Sports Station.
Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. And for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see I am carrying a brand new EcoWater SoCal Yeti water bottle. Now, I want to thank the great people at EcoWater SoCal for giving me this Yeti. It is the biggest water carrying container I've ever had. I've got to use two hands to drink from it properly, but the good news, it can carry a lot of water, and it's beautifully decorated. It's got EcoWater SoCal on one side. It's got EcoWater Systems 100th anniversary on the other side. It's the Yeti, so you know it's high quality. So just a quick shout out to the great people at EcoWater SoCal for keeping me hydrated right here on the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show with this very large but very useful Yeti. Outstanding from EcoWater SoCal. Thank you very much. Let me tell you about a couple of guys that are hot in the Padres lineup today. Let's start with Xander Bogaerts. He has been absolutely terrific for the Padres as of late. His last 26 games, he's batting .380 with a .565 slugging percentage, .462 on base percentage, 11 extra base hits in that span, including 3 home runs, 14 walks, and 13 runs scored. How about this? Xander, in that 26 game span going back to June 19th, he leads the National League in batting average and on base percentage. So not only has Xander been excellent for the Padres, he's been one of the better offensive players in baseball of the last month or so. Jose Iglesias has also reached base safely in a season-high 8 consecutive games. He's gone 10 for 27 in that span. Jose back in the lineup today, batting 8th and playing second base. Let's take a look now at some headlines from around the major leagues.
Let's examine the most important news and the latest information you need to know in the world of Major League Baseball. Sam Levitt takes you Around the Horn, presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Get ready for Major League winning when you join Valley View Casino and Hotel's Players Club and receive over $200 in free instant offers. Visit valleyviewcasino.com to learn more today.
We'll have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard a little bit later, but let's take you through some of the storylines entering action across Major League Baseball today. The Brewers red hot. They have won 11 straight games, tied for the second longest single season streak in club history. They enter today with the best record in the major leagues, the latest in a season. They've had the best record in the majors since 1982 when they won the American League pennant. The Brewers are playing incredibly well right now. Another team playing well, the Cleveland Guardians, they've won 9 of 11. That's on the heels of a 10-game losing streak, but Guardians are right in the wild card mix. They are 3.5 games back of the final wild card spot in the American League. Another big game today between the Blue Jays and the New York Yankees. The Blue Jays can secure the head-to-head tiebreaker with another win today against the Yankees. Toronto has won 6 of 8 against the Yankees this season, including 5 in a row. The Blue Jays now have a 4-game lead on New York for first place in the American League East. The Giants have lost the season high 6 consecutive games. They've also dropped 18 of their last 29 games. Interesting today, Rafael Devers, who was traded to the Giants in June after he made it known to the Red Sox that he did not want to play first base. Well, guess what? Rafi Devers is making his first start at first base today for the Giants. Eugenio Suarez continues his power surge for the Diamondbacks. He hit his 5th home run in the past 3 games with a solo home run in yesterday's loss for Arizona against Houston. The 34-year-old Suarez now leads the National League with 36 home runs. And one other note for you. Remember Rich Hill? Yes, 2023 Padre Rich Hill, the 45-year-old. He will make his Royals debut today. Once he takes the mound, he will tie Edwin Jackson's Major League record by playing for his 14th Major League team. Yes, Rich Hill is back. He's a Kansas City Royal, the 45-year-old on the mound today for Kansas City. And that's a full look at our headlines from around the major leagues. We'll take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard coming up a little bit later as well. Our keys to the game coming up. We'll also break down today's starting pitching matchup between Stephen Kolek and Edward Cabrera. Plus, we hear from Marlins reliever Calvin Fauché, a guy who has a deep San Diego tie. So we'll get to that when we return. More after this on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Your water should be perfect. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. We'll have our keys to the game coming up in just a little bit as the Padres get ready to take on the Miami Marlins at 3:40. Padres come in 55-45. Marlins come in 46-53. Padres trying to begin this 10-game road trip at 4-1. They've won 3 out of 4 so far. 2 more games, including today against Miami, and then 4 games to wrap up this trip Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in St. Louis. First, let's give you the latest on the Padres injury report.
Who's in, who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at BadaFulkerson.com.
Not a whole lot to update you on as far as the Padres side of things. Jackson Merrill was scratched from the lineup on Sunday in Washington, D.C. after dealing with an illness, and then yesterday had an RBI single, scored the game-deciding run. So good day for Merrill yesterday. He's back in the lineup, of course, once again here today, playing center field and batting sixth. As far as the Marlins, they're still without third baseman Connor Norby. He'll be out 6 to 8 weeks after undergoing surgery to repair a broken hamate bone. Outfielder Derek Hill, who pinch ran late yesterday, he's still considered day-to-day with a finger injury, although he typically wouldn't start against a right-hander anyway, so we'll see if Hill comes off the bench once again here today. Marlins also without right-hander Jesus Tinoco, who's dealing with a forearm injury. Left-hander Ryan Weathers dealing with a lat injury, could return next month, and left-hander Andrew Nardi dealing with a back issue, could return before the end of the month. And as we know, Michael King continues to throw bullpens. We'll see what the latest is in the days to come on Michael King, and that's the latest we have on Jackson Merrill. Michael King, I bring up Jackson Merrill, wasn't an injury on Sunday, was scratched with an illness, but you get the point, who's in, who's out. Jackson back in there today, and an update on the Marlins injuries as well. Well, Calvin Fauché, Marlins reliever, who's put together a nice season to this point for Miami, made his Marlins debut last year, had a really nice year, a 3.19 ERA in 53 appearances. He grew up in Chula Vista, went to Southwestern College, then went to UC Irvine, and the 29-year-old has played a major factor in the Marlins bullpen so far this season. Calvin Fauché joined the Braden Soprenic show here on 97.3 The Fan yesterday. Here was Fauché on the state of the Marlins, a team that has played pretty well as of late.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the beginning of the year, like all of us in the clubhouse kind of knew, our capabilities. Like you said, some people probably kind of, brushed us under the rug a little bit in the beginning. But, I think we just come to the yard and do our thing and have fun doing it. A lot of the guys are pretty close in the clubhouse, and we have a good time, not only, on the baseball field, but, we got ping pong in the clubhouse. We got the pool table. We got Mario Kart. It kind of all just brings us together. Guys show up to the yard pretty early, and we just kind of, play those games and get competitive early.
That was Calvin Fauché yesterday here on 97.3 The Fan. Marlins are going to be an interesting team at the trade deadline. They have played well as of late. However, you would expect the Marlins in all likelihood to be sellers. It's just a question of who they will sell and how aggressive they will be as sellers. Here was Fauché on the upcoming trade deadline for the Fish.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone comes to the yard and still just, focuses on the task on the field. Obviously, like, conversations come up of, possibilities of, guys going places or guys coming in. Obviously last year, was a pretty crazy deadline with the amount of guys that were traded. This year, I don't really see that happening, but who knows? And so, yeah, we just kind of come in and, focus where we, can, which is on the field, and let everything else kind of fall into place.
That was Calvin Fauché, key part of the Marlins bullpen yesterday here on 97.3 The Fan. If you want to hear that full interview, you can always listen on the Odyssey app or wherever you find your podcast to the Braden Soprenic Show on demand. First pitch coming up at 3:40 in Miami. Let's give you our keys to today's game.
How will the Padres unlock a win today? These are the keys to the game. Presented by El Centro Motors Ford. Meet your new Ford General Manager, Greg Ryan, now at El Centro Motors Ford, your new Ford truck, Bronco, and SUV HQ. Call Greg directly at 619-944-0774.
Key number one, figure out Cabrera. Edward Cabrera, today's starting pitcher for Miami, has been one of the best pitchers in baseball the past couple of months. I know you might not think the name Edward Cabrera and say that guy's been as good as guys like Skeens and Christopher Sanchez, but he's been really good. Since the start of play on May 25th, Cabrera's 2.25 ERA ranks fourth in the National League behind Matthew Boyd, Paul Skeens, and Christopher Sanchez. That's among pitchers with at least 40 innings of work. Cabrera has been excellent so far this year. He's a really promising starting pitcher for Miami. Could be a guy they try to trade. We'll see. Got to figure out Cabrera today. Let's be honest. Padres did not do a whole lot against Yuri Perez and this Marlins pitching staff yesterday. They only got 2 runs in the second inning, found a way to win the game, but figuring out Edward Cabrera a little bit more than that today. That's key number 1. Key number 2, Stymie Stowers. Kyle Stowers' solo home run accounted for the Marlins' only run on Monday. With that, he's now 10 for his last 20 in his last 5 games, 6 home runs and 12 RBIs, and all of a sudden, Stowers ranks 3rd in the National League with a .934 OPS this season. He has been terrific. He's turning into, I don't know, maybe a star in Miami. He's been that good as of late. And guess what? He provided the only run Miami scored yesterday. So stopping Stowers, stymieing Stowers, whatever verb you want to use, that's key number 2. You know me with the keys to the game. I like the alliteration. Key number 3, control the other X-Man. I'm not talking about Xander Bogaerts. I'll talk about him in a moment. I'm talking about Xavier Edwards, the leadoff man for Miami. He's back in that leadoff spot today, playing second base. Edwards is hitting .362 with 9 extra base hits in his last 11 games. He has been a big factor at the top of the lineup. Have to keep him off the bases today. Key number 4, more from the Padres X-Man. Let's stay on the X-Men. Xander Bogaerts, his last 12 games, we talked about him a little bit earlier, but last 12 games he's been particularly good. 400 batting average with 4 extra base hits and 6 runs scored, including a grand slam in DC on Sunday. And remember yesterday, Xander didn't have an RBI, but he began the Padres' only run-scoring rally with a leadoff double in the second inning. So Xander, again, offensively, played a major role in yesterday's win. That's a look at our keys to today's game. When we come back, we'll take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, plus a full breakdown of today's starting pitching matchup between Steven Kolek and Edward Cabrera. First pitch coming up at 3:40. We send things out to Miami to Jesse and Tony at 3:30. Stay with us right here on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 3:40 in Miami. We'll have a full breakdown of today's starting pitching matchup in just a moment. We'll also tell you what to watch for. But first,
let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
Padres in the Eastern time zone, so everything coming up in a little bit or later on today. Orioles and the Guardians at 3:40 in Cleveland. Tigers and the Pirates at 3:40 in Pittsburgh. Red Sox and the Phillies in Philly at 3:45. Reds and the Nationals at 3:45 in D.C. White Sox and the Rays in Tampa Bay at 4:05. Yankees and the Blue Jays in Toronto at 4:06. Scherzer on the mound for Toronto today. Angels and the Mets in New York at 4:10. Giants and the Braves in Atlanta at 4:15. Royals and the Cubs at 5:05 in Chicago. Matt Boyd having a great year on the mound for the Cubbies. A's and the Rangers in Arlington at 5:05. Jacob deGrom having a great year for Texas on the mound in that one. Cardinals and the Rockies at 5:40. Astros in Arizona at 6:40. Brewers and the Mariners at 6:40 in Seattle. Brewers going for a 12th win in a row, and that would match a franchise record for a win streak. Jacob Mizorowski on the mound for Milwaukee in that one against Logan Gilbert. And finally, Twins and the Dodgers in L.A. at 7:10. Yoshinobu Yamamoto on the mound for the Dodgers in that one. And I should have mentioned this. I mentioned it during Around the Horn. Rich Hill, the 45-year-old on the mound at Wrigley today against Matt Boyd and the Cubs. Rich Hill making the start for Kansas City. Action to tell you about. I told you during our injury report that Derek Hill, Miami outfielder, was still day-to-day with a finger injury. Well, the Marlins just announced they have put Hill on the 10-day IL with a left middle finger sprain. They have recalled infielder Jack Winkler from AAA Jacksonville. So Hill to the IL, Winkler available off the bench today for Miami. Let's tell you what to watch for.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game. Couple of guys that have been really, really good against Miami as of late. In this lineup, Jose Iglesias, going back to June of 2022, he has a 13-game on-base streak against Miami, hitting .429 in those 13 games with a .571 slugging percentage, 5 extra base hits, and 5 runs scored. Jose swinging the bat well as of late, also playing great defense back in the lineup today for the Padres. Luis Arraez also now a career .348 hitter at Lone Depot Park. So keep an eye on those two guys today. Arraez continues to swing the bat well against the Marlins and in Miami, and Iglesias swinging the bat really well right now. He's been very good against the Fish as of late, going back to the middle of 2022. That's what to watch for in today's game. How does Arraez do? How does Iglesias do? And now let's take a look at our starting pitching matchup between Edward Cabrera and Stephen Kolek.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
All right. Take a look at our starting pitching matchup. Right-hander Stephen Kolek, 28 years old, on the mound for San Diego. 3-4, a 4.24 ERA, 12 starts on the year, 68 innings. He struck out 49, walked 22. Last start in the majors was back on July 5th against the Rangers. A little bit rough, 5 innings and a third, 6 earned runs given up, 9 hits, and 2 home runs allowed. The Padres then optioned Kolek to AAA to give him a little rest. Keep in mind, Kolek is now at 68 innings this season. Last year, he only threw 46 2/3 as a reliever. He hasn't been a starter since 2022 when he was in the minor leagues. He did throw 3 innings 10 days ago at AAA. That's the last time he pitched. Kolek had sort of a weird start against the Marlins in late May at Petco Park. Remember, he gave up 6 runs in the first inning. but that's all he allowed in 5 innings and a third, and the Padres actually came back to win that game 8-6. Kolek has also been a lot better on the road this year than at home. A 2.06 ERA in 8 starts on the road, a 9.45 ERA in 4 starts at home. Meanwhile, right-hander Edward Cabrera, 27-year-old on the mound for Miami, 3.61 ERA in 16 starts this season. Last start before the break against the Orioles, 4 innings, 4 earned runs given up, 8 hits. He struck out 6. He was removed from the game with right elbow discomfort, went for an MRI. All was good. He then threw over the break and over the weekend. He's back out there today. Cabrera has been really, really good. He has a 2.54 ERA in more than 60 innings since the beginning of May. Cabrera has also made 2 career starts against the Padres. He is not allowed a run against San Diego. 4 scoreless innings in 2022, 7 scoreless innings last year against San Diego. Just 7 hits allowed in 11 combined innings for Edward Cabrera against the Padres. So the Padres have to find a way to figure out Cabrera today. That's a look at our starting pitching matchup. Kolek for San Diego and Cabrera for Miami. As always, thank you for listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Your water should be perfect. When we come back, we send things down to Miami. Jesse Agler, Tony Gwynn Jr. standing by. They are ready to go. They'll have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game coverage. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.